I didn't really fully answer your question, because the danger, obviously, that a lot of people have, which is very real for adults on the spectrum, though, is, when you're sexually underdeveloped because you haven't had a healthy curriculum, of course you're going to turn to the online stuff. And we have a lot of our folks that have found themselves on the sex offender registry. And I don't care what anybody says, if I have a client or a patient that is in any kind of a threat to be on that registry, I say, while you still have your passport before they take it away, get out of the country, because your life is over if you're on that. We live in such a punitive system that especially people on the spectrum who just want to get the interview with the cop over with, that they'll sign anything. And we've had so many people that have been railroaded onto that registry that do not deserve to be on the registry. The registry is something that I think was a good idea to start out with. And unfortunately, local prosecutors just use it as a way to win elections and to look tough on crime by increasing their numbers against really innocent people. I mean, especially, when we lie to our citizens and we say that we're a society that doesn't tolerate rape. Are you kidding me? Seen our prison system yet? When we all, nudge each other and go wink, wink, yeah, that guy's going to get it in prison. Don't tell me we don't tolerate rape. We don't not only do we tolerate it, we encourage it. It's still a huge part of our fabric. So that's what parents are usually scared of. Right. But unfortunately, for all of us right now, porn is the sex ed, because none of us are comfortable taking over for porn to be the teachers anymore.
This problem with not educating people on the spectrum or people with special needs, not educating them properly, is really just kind of a reflection, like how we were saying, of how the culture views sex in general. So what are some of your ideas to combat, the Puritan values, or how much religion plays a part in society?
It's a hard question, because I think I'm still a little stupefied by why we've allowed, such harmful ideals to flourish. I'm still a little confused by that. I think that, we have a history of trying to nobly give everyone a voice in the name of pluralism. But if you want to take your particular community's views and instill it into a public atmosphere, i.e. the separation between church and state being destroyed, that's really one of the first bad signals that we send to these harmful purveyors, because we're legitimizing them. I think that, when we've allowed that stuff into our schools, where we still have, in the dumb Midwest, you still have, abstinence programs, which lie through their teeth to kids, instead of healthy sex ed programs in the public schools sometimes. That's only occurred because people have let them. And I think haven't we learned enough about maybe not allowing people the keys to the entire castle? And letting science dictate science. I mean, in America, you've seen it. We never used to politicize healthcare. We never used to politicize education, but it's all become, this partisan background. And, because of the fact that we're so terrified of healthy sexuality, we just let it roam free. And honestly, my only idea, and it's not that good a one, is, again, focusing on the biology. And if you just listen to that and listen to the science of what your body wants, and that if you have a kink, understand it's not going to go anywhere. So, maybe a painful conversation needs to be had. And just understanding that this is all really healthy, not unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. So how is sex ed taught in mainstream classrooms now? Because I remember when I was... So I remember the day we all went to the auditorium when I was in 5th grade, and they put on that video about how people get pregnant. But we didn't learn about masturbation. Are they teaching that now?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
No. And especially on the autism spectrum, that is absolutely essential, especially for more significantly challenged individuals. One of the things that I always found when I first entered this field, and I was sort of, in my learning curve of going from, center to center and listening to everybody and asking questions of people. The people that gave me the grant to start GRASS, they gave me this long fellowship first, where I could really go and absorb. And one of the leitmotifs that I heard all the time was a group of clinicians who've been in charge of significantly challenged folks. They all had a story where a guy on the spectrum, quote unquote, whipped it out and started to masturbate, in a quote unquote inappropriate setting. And one of the things I'm sort of thinking in my mind is they're telling me the stories of how freaked out they were, and, obviously, having to, somehow corral it, probably not very gracefully though. And yet coming together at the bar as clinicians to share the story. And if they were uncomfortable about it, they were made more comfortable about it because of the peer-to-peer experience with their colleagues. Okay. Well, I was thinking in my head, okay, I'm that nonverbal person. And I've just discovered the greatest thing since sliced bread. This is awesome. This is fabulous. And if a clinician that I have trusted before comes in a panic over to me, yelling at me, grabbing my arm, moving me, and kind of, let's say they're destroying the moment, am I really going to trust them again? Has my relationship with them been changed? And now that I have, a really bad memory to process, do I get a chance with my peers to work this out? No.
Right.
And the other thing too about all this stuff too is that it's like if people who are significantly challenged were not given instructions about the changes that their bodies would go through during puberty, I just I knew from experience that, if you think you've seen behavioral problems out of that individual, you ain't seen nothing yet until those changes happen and nobody prepped you for it.
Right.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't think there's much different from the days of our sex ed class. It's a biology class in a lot of ways. It's a, class on safe sex practices, I think a lot more maybe than when we were kids. And I also think that there's a lot more of a self-esteem portion of today's sex ed, especially targeted at girls, which is vastly needed. But are we really being inclusive to the point where we're talking about LGBTQ, issues in the sex ed class? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that just furthers, we don't even have to be bigots. Just the exclusion of that in a sex ed curriculum stigmatizes the LGBTQ community right there and then. Are we talking about procedures that could actually make us confident that we could be treasured lovers of somebody? No, absolutely not. It's just all about the pregnancy issue. Al Vernacchio is a guy who wrote a book that I really liked when I was first starting this, and he has a great quote. We are still teaching kids that we do not want them to have great sex.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.